I, 32F, have been married to Derek, 34M, for 6 years. We have 2 kids, Emma, 4F, and Liam, 2M. I thought we had a good marriage, but something happened recently that made me question everything. Derek and I met in college. We were both part of the same study group for our economics class. I was immediately drawn to his quick wit and charming smile. We started dating in our junior year, and things moved pretty quickly from there. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city. I became an elementary school teacher, and Derek went into marketing. We got married 2 years after college and settled into a cozy apartment downtown. Life was good for a while. We were young, in love, and excited about our future together. When I got pregnant with Emma, we were over the moon. Derek was so attentive during my pregnancy, always making sure I was comfortable and had everything I needed. But things started to change after Emma was born. The sleepless nights and constant demands of a newborn took their toll on both of us. I took a few months of maternity leave, but Derek dove right back into work. He started putting in longer hours at the office, saying he wanted to secure a promotion to provide for our growing family. I understood his drive to succeed, but I started feeling like I was doing the bulk of the childcare and household work alone. Even when Derek was home, he seemed distracted and uninvolved. I'd have to ask him multiple times to do simple tasks like changing Emma's diaper or washing bottles. I tried talking to Derek about it several times. He'd always apologize and promise to do better, but nothing really changed long term. When Liam was born 2 years later, the imbalance in our relationship only got worse. I was juggling a toddler, a newborn, and my teaching job while Derek continued to focus primarily on his career. Don't get me wrong, Derek is a loving father. He lights up when he plays with the kids on weekends. But when it comes to the day-to-day grind of parenting and running a household, I feel like I'm doing it mostly alone. I've lost count of how many times I've had to remind Derek about doctor's appointments, daycare schedules, or buying new clothes for the kids as they grow. He never seems to notice when we're running low on groceries or when the house needs cleaning. If I don't explicitly ask him to do something, it just doesn't get done. I've tried every approach I can think of to get Derek more involved. I've had calm discussions with him about how overwhelmed I feel. I've left lists of tasks that need doing. I've even tried stepping back and letting things fall apart to see if he'd step up. Nothing seems to work for more than a few days at a time. Despite all this, I still love Derek. When we do get rare moments alone together, I'm reminded of the fun, caring guy I fell in love with. But those moments are getting fewer and farther between as resentment builds. Last month, we planned a family vacation to visit my sister Carol, 29F, who recently moved to Florida. Carol and I have always been close, and I was really looking forward to seeing her new place and introducing her to Liam, who she hasn't met in person yet due to the pandemic. I thought the trip would be good family bonding time for all of us. I spent weeks preparing for the trip, buying new summer clothes for the kids, arranging for a pet sitter for our cat, packing all the essentials we'd need for traveling with 2 young children. Derek's only contribution was booking the flights and hotel. The day of our flight arrived. We got to the airport and everything seemed fine at first. We checked our bags and made our way through security. As we approached our gate, Derek said he needed to use the restroom. I said no problem and waited with the kids near the gate. After about 30 minutes, I started to get worried. Our flight was due to board soon, and Derek still hadn't returned. I called his cell phone, and he sounded evasive when he answered. I pressed him on where he was, and he finally admitted he had upgraded himself to first class without telling me. I was absolutely furious. Not only did he abandon me to wrangle 2 young kids alone on a 4-hour flight, but he did it in such a sneaky way. When I confronted him, he got defensive and said he deserved a break because work had been stressful lately. He claimed it wasn't. A big deal since it was only a 4-hour flight. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Here I was, exhausted from weeks of planning this trip and managing the kids solo as usual, and Derek thought he was the one who deserved a break? I told him he needed to come back immediately, or I would leave and go home with the kids. He refused and said I was overreacting. At that point, I was so angry and hurt that I decided to board the plane without him. I didn't even wait for our checked bags. I just got the kids on board and we flew to Florida. Emma kept asking where Daddy was, and I made up an excuse about him taking a different flight. When we landed, I ignored Derek's calls and texts. I went straight to my sister Carol's house. She was shocked when I showed up with the kids and no Derek. I broke down crying and told her everything, not just about the airport incident, but all the built-up resentment and frustration from years of feeling unsupported. Carol was furious on my behalf. She's always been protective of me, even though she's younger. She insisted we stay with her as long as we needed and said Derek's behavior was completely unacceptable. Derek kept calling and texting, begging me to tell him where we were. After a few hours, I finally called him back. He was panicking, saying he'd been waiting at the airport for hours not knowing where we were. I told him I was at Carol's and that I wanted a divorce. Derek sounded shocked and said I was blowing things out of proportion. He tried to justify his actions again, saying work had been really stressful and he just needed some peace and quiet. I laughed and told him I feel stressed every single day juggling work, kids, and household duties. But I've never abandoned my family. I laid out all my frustrations. How I feel like a single parent most of the time. How he never takes initiative with the kids or chores. How I'm tired of having to manage everything. Derek tried to argue that he contributes equally, but that's just not true. I'm the one who remembers doctor's appointments, buys the kids' clothes, plans meals, coordinates schedules, etc. Derek only does things if I explicitly ask him to. I told Derek I was done. The first class upgrade was the last straw after years of feeling unsupported and taken for granted. He kept trying to convince me to come to the hotel to talk things through, but I refused. I said I needed space and would be staying with Carol. A few hours later, Derek's parents called me. They've always been kind to me, and I've had a good relationship with them over the years. They apologized for Derek's behavior and begged me not to get divorced. They said Derek was devastated and that surely we could work things out. I felt conflicted after talking to them. Part of me still loves Derek and wants our marriage to work. We have so much history together, and I know he loves the kids. But another part of me feels like I've given him so many chances already. I'm exhausted from years of trying to make him understand how I feel, only for nothing to really change. I'm torn about what to do next. I know divorce would be hard on the kids. Emma adores her dad, and I worry about how it would affect her. But I also don't want to model a marriage where one partner does everything while the other coasts. Am I overreacting to the first-class incident? Should I give Derek another chance? I could really use some outside perspective. Tia for leaving my husband at the airport and threatening divorce over this? Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support. I wanted to give an update on what's happened since then. After a lot of back and forth, I ended up agreeing to meet with Derek in person to talk things through. We met at a coffee shop while Carol watched the kids. It was an emotional and difficult conversation that lasted several hours. Derek started off by apologizing profusely for the first-class incident. He admitted it was selfish and inconsiderate. He said he's been doing a lot of reflection over the past 2 weeks and realizes how much he's taken me for granted. I told Derek that while I appreciated the apology, this wasn't just about the plane incident. I laid out all my frustrations again. Feeling like a single parent, carrying the mental load for our family, lack of initiative on his part, etc. I explained that I've brought these issues up many times before, but nothing ever changed. To my surprise, Derek opened up about some things he's never shared before. He admitted that he's been struggling with anxiety and feelings of inadequacy as a provider. Apparently, his own father was very critical and always pushed Derek to be more successful. This led to Derek internalizing a lot of pressure to climb the corporate ladder and provide a certain lifestyle for our family. Derek said he's been working long hours and stressing about money because he wants to give us the best life possible. But he realizes now that in doing so, he was neglecting what's truly important, being present as a husband and father. He said he often feels overwhelmed by the demands of parenting and household management, so he tends to retreat into work where he feels more competent. I was surprised to learn about Derek's anxiety issues. He's always presented such a confident front that I had no idea he was dealing with these insecurities. It doesn't excuse his behavior, but it helps me understand it a bit better. We talked a lot about our different upbringings and how they've shaped our approach to family life. My parents had a very egalitarian marriage where they shared household and childcare duties equally. Derek's mom was a stay-at-home parent who did everything domestically while his dad focused solely on his career. We realized we had very different models for what a marriage should look like. Derek asked if we could try marriage counseling before making any decisions about divorce. He said he wants to be a better partner and father, but he needs help figuring out how. He also said he'd start individual therapy to work on his anxiety and the issues stemming from his relationship with his own father. I was hesitant at first. I've heard promises of change from Derek before that never materialized. But seeing how devastated and remorseful he was made me consider giving things one last chance. After a lot of thought, I agreed to try marriage counseling, but I made it clear this was Derek's last chance. I told him I refused to continue in a one-sided marriage where I'm doing everything. If I don't see real, consistent changes, I will file for divorce. We found a counselor and have had 3 sessions so far. It's been eye-opening and emotional. The counselor is helping us improve our communication and teaching Derek how to be a more active partner. She's also encouraging me to be more direct about my needs instead of silently resenting Derek. We've been doing exercises to help Derek get more comfortable with childcare and household tasks. The counselor pointed out that Derek's avoidance of these things was likely rooted in anxiety about doing them wrong, so we're working on building his confidence. At home, I've seen Derek making more of an effort. He's been helping with the kids' bedtime routine, doing laundry unprompted, and even planned a date night for us. It's a start, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm still staying at Carol's for now. I told Derek I need more time and want to see sustained changes before moving back home. He was disappointed but understood. We're doing family dinners a few times a week so the kids can see Derek. Emma has been asking a lot of questions about why we're not all living together. It breaks my heart to see her confused and upset. We've tried to explain things in an age-appropriate way, saying Mommy and Daddy are working on some grown-up problems, but we both love her and Liam very much. I'm still not sure what the future holds for us, but I feel like we're both putting in genuine effort to fix our issues. Only time will tell if it's enough. I'll post another update once I've made a final decision about our marriage. Thank you again for all the support. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update. A lot has happened, so I wanted to fill everyone in. Derek and I continued with marriage counseling for several weeks. Initially, things seemed to be improving. Derek was more engaged at home and with the kids. He was communicating better and seemed to be really trying. We had some good moments during this time. Derek took a day off work to take Emma to the zoo, something he'd been promising to do for months. He started doing bedtime stories with Liam every night. We even had a few date nights where we reconnected and remembered why we fell in love in the first place. However, as time went on, I noticed old patterns starting to creep back in. Derek would forget important things I told him about the kids, like Emma's dance recital or Liam's doctor appointment. He'd promise to handle certain tasks, then not follow through. When I'd bring it up, he'd get defensive or make excuses about being too busy with work. I tried to be patient, reminding myself that change takes time. But it was hard not to feel discouraged when I saw Derek slipping back into his old habits. The mental load of managing everything was starting to weigh on me again. One incident really stands out. Emma had a bad cold and was up most of the night coughing. I asked Derek if he could stay home with her the next day since I had an important meeting at work. He agreed, but when I got home that evening, I found out he'd dropped Emma at my mom's house instead because a crucial work meeting came up. I was furious. This was exactly the kind of thing we'd been working on in counseling. Derek prioritizing work over family responsibilities. When I confronted him about it, he got defensive and said I didn't understand the pressure he was under at work. The final straw came last week. We had a counseling session where the therapist asked us to discuss our goals for the future. I talked about wanting to feel like equal partners in our marriage and family life. Derek said his main goal was to get a promotion at work so he could provide better for the family. When I pointed out that financial provision wasn't our main issue, he got frustrated and said I didn't understand the pressure he was under. He went on a long rant about how hard he works and how ungrateful I was for the lifestyle he provides. It hit me then that despite all the counseling, Derek still didn't truly get it. He was so focused on his role as a provider that he was missing the point about being an equal partner and engaged father. No matter how many times I tried to explain it, he couldn't seem to understand that what I really needed was his presence and participation in our daily lives. After that session, I did a lot of soul-searching. I thought about the past few months and realized that while there had been some improvements, the fundamental issues in our marriage remained. Derek was still prioritizing work over family and leaving me to carry the bulk of the mental and emotional labor. I also reflected on my own part in our dysfunctional dynamic. I realized I'd enabled Derek's behavior for years by picking up his slack and not enforcing boundaries. I'd let resentment build instead of consistently advocating for my needs. After a lot of careful consideration, I made the difficult decision to file for divorce. The trust was broken, and I didn't believe things would truly change long-term. I deserved a true partnership, not a one-sided marriage where I was constantly picking up the slack. I moved back home with the kids and asked Derek to stay with his parents for now. He was devastated when I told him my decision. He begged for another chance, promising he'd do better this time. But I held firm, knowing we'd been down this road before. We're working out a custody arrangement that allows Derek plenty of time with the kids. Despite our issues, I know he loves Emma and Liam, and I want them to have a good relationship with their father. It's been really hard, especially seeing how sad the kids are. Emma keeps asking when Daddy is coming home, and it breaks my heart to explain that he won't be. Liam is too young to really understand, but he's been extra clingy lately. I'm focusing now on healing and building a new life for myself and the kids. I've started individual therapy to work through my own issues that led me to accept this imbalanced dynamic for so long. Carol has been an incredible support through all of this. She's helped with the kids, listened to me cry, and reminded me that I'm making the right choice for my long-term happiness and well-being. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm cautiously optimistic. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing up for myself and my needs. It's scary, but also empowering. Thank you to everyone who's followed my story and offered support. It means more than you know. Wishing you all the best.